ina mugaso ki?
TIN number eyambako ng'oyagala osasula emisolo like URA, oyagala okufuna number plate y'emmotoka wetagisa TIN number, oyagala okufuna driving license wetaaga TIN number ekyo.
TIN ngimanyi.
TIN erina mugaso ki?
Waliwo TIN ekikebe, TIN ennamba.
TIN ennamba.
TIN ngimanyi kale. Oba recognized nti osasula omusolo gwo bulungi nti tebakuziwaza mu bintu by'emisolo w'ebityo kwegamba oba straight mu bintu ebyokola.
Njagala kumanya TIN kyeki?
TIN namba kwensasulira omusolo n'ekyekirala.
Gw'osuubira zirina mugaso ki TIN namba ezo?
TIN namba zinooza nga identification oba identifyingira omuntu oba ayina bizinesi oba ayina kyakola.
TIN namba okimanyi?
TIN namba okimanyi.
Kitegeeza ki?
TIN namba kitegeeza bw'oba olina TIN namba katugambe oguze emotoka otumize emotoka kati bw'oba ogenda kusasula mu revenue olina okuba olina TIN namba okugamba esobole okubeera n'omumanya gwo.
Yesuubira TIN namba tugiyize era tumanye omugaso gwayo. Atagimanya ayogedde byonna by'oyogedde. Okay, kanufune answer etufu okuva ew'abakugu. TIN namba n'emigaso gya TIN namba teweerabira Bro Hassa, a boy from Kiboga has been my name. Comedy Tricks is where I come from. Don't forget, you can check there for more funny clips. And again, Balix, bebabadde ku nteekateeka y'okubanga kino ekintu kikutuukako wonna gye tutambulidde banaye mukulikeyo big up on Faizo on camera and Faizo my main producer bonna bikwasaganyizza. Banaye ndowooza tunaddamu mweraba.
TIN ye nnamba y'omusolo ekwawula ku muwi w'omusolo omulala. Era ng'ennamba eno esobola okuweebwa ng'omuntu sekinnoomu individual oba ng'ekitongole katugeze olina ka business kakali eyo olina ekitongole ky'okoleramu kwegamba tugiwa omuntu sekinnoomu n'omuntu atali sekinnoomu. Era ennamba eno ebeera nnamba nga ya digiti 10 okugeza nga 1000-22-33-47 kwegamba ebeerako ennamba 10. Era ng'ennamba eno ekwawula ku muwi w'omusolo omulala. Ate ekirala omuntu yandyagadde okumanya nti ekuyamba etya. TIN teyamba gavumenti yokka kukuŋŋaanya musolo okuva mu bantu oba ebitongole. Wabula naawe ng'omuntu ekuyamba okugeza. Ekuyambako okusasula omusolo ekyo nkyogedde. Ekuyambako nga osuubula ebintu okuva ebweru w'eggwanga ate n'okubitunda ebweru w'eggwanga okusobola okubikiriyalinga ne bibeera nga bisasula omusolo olina okuba ng'olina TIN. Ekirala ekuyambako bw'oba ng'osaba ttenda mu gavumenti kubanga waliwo abamu ku ffe ababeera nga twagala okukolera gavumenti emirimu ekuwadde akalimu oba weetaaga okubeera ng'olina TIN lwa nsonga ti omuntu gavumenti gwe okolera emirimu oba ebitongole ebirala eby'enjawulo bikusaba okubeera ne kye tuyita tax clearance certificate ekukakasa nti ggwe wawandiisibwa era emisolo gyo gisasula bulungi. So TIN ekuyambako mu nkola eyo. Ekirala okukyusa obwannannyini ku bidduka. Waliwo bannaffe abatunda emmotoka zaabwe nga baziguza abantu abalala. Kizibu nnyo okukyusa emmotoka ensangi zino nga tolina TIN. Kubanga oyingira mu TIN yo mwennyini n'ogiteekamu n'oteekamu ne password yo. Noba ng'osobola okukyusa emmotoka eyo kuba emmotoka kati twazikyusa zaawandiisibwa ku system si bye biri ebyedda ng'olina ekipapula kyebbali n'obeera ng'okikyusa n'okizeewo omuntu omulala. So TIN ya mugaso nnyo.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
That's my little angel Rose. Together with millions of other children, my daughter Rose is assured of learning something new every day. Moses, my husband, just like many other commercial farmers, has his business supported so he can provide for us. When my other little one was on the way, even with my pregnancy complications, it was a quick, smooth ride to Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital. Also, my new baby was able to make it through his first days with the help of specialized equipment thanks to the reliable electricity which has also been extended throughout the country. All this and more has been made possible because of you.
Join us and together let's do more for our country. Get your free tin instantly at www.ura.go.ug.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Kapo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm gonna pay URA visit.
Why would anyone visit URA? Of all places?
To know more about the Kakasa business solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program and electronic fiscal receipting, and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Good morning, Uganda. We are coming to you live from the URA Tower, 19th floor. And this is the Live Tax Lounge, where we get to have a personal interaction with every taxpayer, the ones who are already active, the ones who are willing, and the ones who are soon to be active. We are saying thank you so much for tuning in. The Live Tax Lounge is here, and it's purely interactive. It's a Q&A session, so even at this very point, I'm going to request all of you to set your questions concerning VAT fraud. With me on set this morning is a team of two very dynamic investigators that work with the Tax Investigation Department, a lady and a gentleman, and of course, in typical culture, we are going to do it for the culture, and the lady will go first. And she's none other than Enid. Enid, you can greet the viewers.
Thank you, Solomon. Good morning, taxpayers. Good morning, colleagues.
That is Enid for you. She is a high-profile investigator who works with the Tax Investigation Department. The full name is Enid Namlembwa, and we are very, very glad to have her this morning with us. Enid is flanked by a gentleman who is equally dynamic when it comes to tax investigation, and he's none other than Godfrey Tabu Adikule. You can greet the viewers.
Good morning, our viewers and the listeners. My name is Tabu Godfrey Adikule. I'm attached to Tax Investigations Department. I welcome you to today's show. Thank you, the moderator.
Thank you so much. And just like that, we shall swim right into the discussion for the day. And the discussion is about appreciating the VAT fraud schemes in Uganda, the landscape, what it looks like. And of course, the key takeaways should be how to avoid, because we are going to have a deep dive into all these schemes. And the team here will be able to share with you all the things that you should avoid so that you don't find yourself in a difficult situation at any one time. And of course, the conversation starts with a question that I'm going to field to Enid here. And it is a question on what it is. When someone says VAT fraud, exactly what do they mean?
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. VAT fraud literally means that a person or a taxpayer arranges their tax matters in such a way that they avoid paying tax. For example, they will arrange their information in a false manner and intentionally with the purpose of obtaining undue tax benefit. What do I mean by undue tax benefit? I mean that this taxpayer will arrange his false information in order to reduce their tax liability that they would otherwise have paid in full. They will also arrange their tax matters in such a way that they will increase their VAT credit on their account with URA, or they will increase their refund. When they want to get a big refund, then they will falsely arrange their tax affairs in such a way that when they are filing their return, they will end up with a big refund. So Solomon, precisely, that is VAT fraud. When a taxpayer falsely, with the intention of defrauding the country, defrauding government, instead of paying the correct tax, they will pay the wrong tax or a lesser tax.
And in the extreme scenarios, some of them could even request for refunds.
Definitely. That's why I said that when I was defining fraud is that they falsely arrange their matters in such a way that they increase the refund that they can obtain from URA or the credit on their account. All that is fraud.
Thank you so much, Ini. Just to probe you a little deeper on that very issue. When is a taxpayer said to be guilty of VAT fraud? As in Chikulide. Let's go in.
Yeah. Thank you, Solomon. A taxpayer will be guilty of VAT fraud when they do not do the right thing. For example, a taxpayer is supposed to register for VAT. If this taxpayer who is due to register for VAT does not register, it means he's guilty of VAT fraud. Filing returns. When this taxpayer files wrong returns, when he's supposed to file the right returns and pay maybe 100 million, and then he falsely files these returns, then he becomes guilty of VAT fraud.
Okay.
He's not filing the correct thing. Perhaps he's using wrong information to obtain undue tax benefit, like I said in the definition. That person is guilty of fraud. Sometimes a taxpayer also uses a TIN that is not theirs. They use a wrong TIN with the intention of defrauding. Because when we check that TIN, it will go to another person, and yet the person obtaining the benefit is a different person. So as long as the taxpayer has not done the right thing, what they are supposed to do, then they become guilty of fraud. So literally, that is VAT fraud.
Thank you so much. Now, you've talked about the obligation of registration for VAT. And this is a question I'm perhaps going to ask my brother Tabu. Who, by law, Ugandan law, is required to register for VAT?
Thank you, Solomon. The tax law in Uganda advocates for what we call self-compliance, meaning that when you are doing business, you ought to have registered for VAT. But there are two scenarios here. There is what we call voluntary registration. Voluntary registration is where you know that you anticipate to do business and you believe that the nature of the business that I'm going to do is going to be liable to VAT. So what you do is you come to URA, or else you log through the e-tax platform, you apply for VAT registration, which is voluntary registration. Of course, there are requirements for purpose of voluntary registration. When you apply, one of the criteria that URA considers, do you have fixed abode of business? That at one time, when URA wants to do inspections, are they able to find you in the location that you've indicated? Secondly is, are you going to, in terms of your turnover, in a period of 1 year, are you able to make sales to a tune of 50 million Ugandan shillings, exclusive of VAT? Of course, the 50 million is broken into quarterly basis. So in a period of 3 months, if you know that you are going to make a sales above 37.5 million, exclusive of VAT, you are requested to register. So you come, you apply with URA, and you are registered. Of course, when you register, they give you the TIN registration certificate, which indicates that you are registered. That is the element of voluntary registration. But there are scenarios whereby if you fail to fulfill your obligation of voluntary registration, then URA comes for you, which is compulsory registration. And maybe such kind of things normally happens when there's either any audit on you or investigations. That during the investigations, URA has discovered that actually the sales that you have made within a consecutive period of 3 months is more than 37.5 million. And when they look at your sales records in a period of 1 year, it's discovered that you have actually made sales beyond 150 million. Then URA will forcefully register you. So it is for the benefit of the taxpayer that whenever you know that you are doing business, don't opt for compulsory registration. Go for voluntary registration. Because there are costs associated with the compulsory registration, it means that you have failed to fulfill your obligations under the Taxpayer Charter of Voluntary Registration. So the cost of compulsory registration is a bit high. So my advice to the taxpayer is it's always important you go for voluntary registration.
Thank you so much. When you voluntarily register for VAT, you get to enjoy all the benefits. When you do not do that, then clearly you get to face some consequences, like Godfrey has indicated. So of course we advocate for everyone who is in business for the long haul to do the right thing, because you want to operate your business in a very safe environment for yourself, for your clients, and also for URA. Now, we are still talking about VAT fraud, and of course there are offenses involved. For any fraudulent activity, there must be offenses involved. If I can task you in it to break down the specific offenses that are within the grand scheme of VAT fraud. Break it down for the benefit of our viewers.
Thank you so much. The taxpayer will be said to have committed an offense when he fails to do what they are required to do. Under VAT, the taxpayer is required, like Godfrey had said, is required to register. That is when your sales require you to register, you are required to register. So if you do not register, when you are required to register, then you commit an offense. The law prescribes the punishment. I don't know whether you also want me to give the punishment.
Yeah, sure. What is the punishment? Yeah. Because every stick should be measured.
Yeah. So if you know that you're supposed to register, then you intentionally refuse to register, then that is when we say you refuse to register. Then the law prescribes when you are successfully prosecuted, 2 years imprisonment.
For failure to register for VAT?
For failure to register for VAT, when you actually know that your turnover is above the threshold. Then
that's quite interesting.
Yes.
I'm requesting that you repeat that for emphasis and for avoidance of doubt.
When you are in business and you know that your sales are above the threshold, which is 150 million in a year, or 37.5 million in 3 consecutive months, then you commit an offense which is punishable by a fine of 50 currency points or 2 years confinement.
Wow.
When
it's that serious, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
What other offenses are we looking at?
You are also required to file a return at the end of every month. On the by the 15th day of the following month, you are supposed to file a return and account for VAT. So if you do not do that, you also commit an offense. And it will attract also a 2 years imprisonment when you are successfully prosecuted, or 48 currency points.
It was 50
yes.
for failure to register?
Yes.
It is 48 for failure to file a return?
Yes.
Do you have scenarios where someone has failed on both?
Yes.
is there some sort of aggregation? Because then those are two different counts.
Failure to register and failure to?
And failure to file.
To file. Of course, failure to register, you have not registered at all. You are not in the URA system. We have discovered you. Now, failure to return is that you are on the system already.
Okay.
You have registered. Now, another obligation is for you to file a return by the 15th day of the following month. So if you don't do that, then you also commit an offense, which is punishable.
If you
but you can also file, and you don't file in time, which is also another offense.
Interesting.
Yes.
What does that one attract? Late filing.
Late filing is going to attract a fine of 200,000 or 2% per month, compounded of interest.
If you file late for several months,
then that's why I'm saying compounded. The interest will compound. This month's interest will become principal. It will attract interest in the following month. So if you don't file, the interest keeps compounding itself until it reaches maximum.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's very critical for you to note that specific one, because you don't want to lose a good chunk of your capital to fines and penalties for late filing. Always do the right thing and file on time. VAT filing obligation is a requirement that should be fulfilled before the 15th of the subsequent month.
Yes.
For example, we are in June.
Yes.
So and the VAT for May.
And we have already exceeded 15th?
No.
What is the date? We have not yet
Today
exceeded.
is 10th.
So you are supposed to file within this period for May, up to 15th May. So the moment it comes to 16th, then it is late. Yes, 200,000 comes up, or 2%,
wow.
Whichever is higher.
Thank you.
Another offense is failure to maintain records. When you are in business, the law requires you to maintain business records. To enable the taxman or URA to be able to compute the correct tax due to you. But if you do not maintain these records, it means there will be a problem when they are computing your taxes. They may compute either higher or lower. That means it will be a wrong tax. So when we do not find those records there, you commit an offense which also attracts 48 currency points or 2 years in confinement.
Not at your home?
When you are away from your home, you are being kept by government, trying to teach you that it is an obligation for you to keep business records. Another offense is misuse of TIN. When a taxpayer claims to have bought from person B and uses that person's TIN to claim credit when actually did not buy from that person. So you are misusing that person's TIN. It means you are committing an offense, and the law requires you, can fine you 24 currency points or 1 year imprisonment.
Let me understand this very clearly. You're in business.
Yes. Yes.
And Mr. Tabu is also in business.
Yes.
And you transact for your business.
Yes.
But when it comes to the every side of things, or VAT accounting,
yes,
you use Tabu's TIN for that particular transaction.
Yes, when you're filing your return and you are claiming a cost, you are claiming a cost, you are supposed to input a TIN.
Your TIN?
The person from whom you purchased, your supplier.
Okay.
Yes. But if you put a supplier's TIN who actually did not supply to you, it means you are abusing his TIN, and that is an offense. If you are caught, 24 currency points of fine or 1 year sentence, imprisonment.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. Just a side question. In the times of EFRIS, because this is something that people should be interested in.
Yes.
Do we still have situations where someone can get away with that kind of TIN abuse?
Yes, we do. 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 We people are abusing, but right now, because the information is on the system, we can still get them. They can't get away with it. They can do it, but definitely they will be good.
Because if it's about real-time data
exactly
sharing, so
yes.
The other person whom
will be notified.
You're talking about fraudulently.
Yes,
gets a hit.
Will be notified, and he will raise an alarm to URA.
Fantastic.
So you will be gotten.
When you see something that is unusual coming into your email pertaining to an FX transaction, please don't hesitate to reach out to URA. It could be a potential case of someone abusing your team. So always look out for those transactional messages.
Another offense is providing misleading information to URA. When you're filing your return, you are required to file the correct information pertaining to your business. The moment you begin putting information that does not relate to your business with the intention of paying less tax, reducing your liability, then you're providing wrong and misleading information to URA. For example, you are putting sales which you did not make, fictitious sales, but for the purpose of benefiting the other person. You are becoming a supplier to a person when you have actually not supplied. And you are telling URA that I sold. When you didn't actually sold, that is wrong information. You are also claiming a cost. Like I said, you are claiming a cost you never incurred. You are saying, I bought ABCD from XYZ. And when it is verified from XYZ and they have not sold to you, you also actually did not sell to the person you purport to have sold it to. You commit an offense which attracts also 48 currency points or imprisonment of 2 years in jail.
Is that thing that you've just described, is that what they term as invoice trading?
Yes, invoice trading is one of them, where people go out and just buy invoices and use them to file their returns, which means that return is wrong. So it is, you are providing false and misleading information to URA.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more areas that people should really be on the lookout for?
People should be on the lookout for people who file for them, especially taxpayers who are not filing their own returns, who are using agents. That agents can go out to put in information in your return which you are not aware of. Reflecting that you purchased when you actually did not. Reflecting that you sold when you actually did not sell. So taxpayers should be on the lookout for information that does not relate to their own businesses.
Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen who are viewing us from the other side, this is a highly interactive show, and questions are very much encouraged. It begins with a very brief discussion on the matter that is in the deed, or then right after that, we open up the floor for questions. Questions can come through via Zoom. Questions can come through via Twitter. Questions can come through via the YouTube channel, and as well as the Taxman blog, because we are streaming live on each one of these platforms. So don't hesitate. You can get in the chat section of the Zoom platform or the Q&A section, and you put in a question that you would want the team to particularly address concerning this issue of VAT fraud. Now, Godfrey, I'm coming back to you on the issue of the obligations that come with VAT registration, because you've been tackling the registration side of this whole VAT discussion. Now, what are the specific obligations that a taxpayer must fulfill after registering for VAT?
Thank you, Solomon. As a taxpayer, if you have already registered for VAT, one of the obligations is you must file your monthly VAT returns for VAT. And the law gives you a period of 15 days, especially if we are now in a period of June. So for the purpose of you filing your returns for the month of May, the law gives you up to 15th of June. meaning that you should be able to reconcile your records within a period of 15 days to file the returns for the last month. That's under filing returns. Of course, after filing, there's obligation for you to pay, meaning that the tax which is due on you, you are supposed to pay it within also the 15 days when you are filing returns. Of course, much as the law gives you obligation to pay, there are scenarios you find you don't have a VAT to pay to URA, but you are entitled to a refund. So at any time you can apply to URA and get your refund for the VAT which is due to you. The last obligation on the taxpayer is, of course, while you file the returns, you must make sure you keep correct and accurate records. Meaning that the details of your incomes or sales that you have put in the VAT returns must be accurate. All the expenses that you have declared in your VAT returns must be accurate, because at one point in time, you will come and say, please, can I have a look at your records? I want to see the credibility of the information you have declared in the returns. Does it reflect actually the true and the exact nature of your business? So meaning that the law inputs obligations on you to make sure these records are available at any time that URA wants. And for the benefit of the taxpayer is that some of this information we can access it in real time in our IFRS. And of course, you should also make sure that you keep a copy of the same information for accountability purposes. In an event, to avoid an event whereby you are issued unfair assessment just because you do not keep your proper records. Those are the obligations that the law puts on the taxpayer regarding VAT.
Thank you so much, Tabu Godfrey, for making that clarification for the benefit of our viewers, because it's imperative to know that the responsibility of VAT registration is not light. There are quite a number of things that must be fulfilled, as you've clearly spelled them out. And for you to enjoy all the benefits that come with the VAT registration, it's a given that you must fulfill those. But speaking of benefits, because there are quite a number, and I'm returning to Enid on this one, what are the benefits that come with the VAT registration, and why is it a big deal for taxpayers to get VAT registered?
One, when you register for VAT, it means you are able to claim back your VAT, which you paid when you're purchasing. That's the only way you can get back your VAT. Of course, the VAT is such a way that when you collect from the sales, you are supposed to offset what you paid when you're purchasing. That is one benefit for registering for VAT. Benefit number 2 is that when you file correct returns, when you register and then you begin filing correct returns, then you reduce on the disturbance, the audits that come to you, because it comes with a cost. You're supposed to hire an auditor to work with the URA in order to ensure your tax liability is the correct one. But when you register willingly, you file your returns in time, you pay on time, then you reduce on the chances of being picked on to audit, and it reduces, it saves that time for you to do your business, and you continue in business correctly.
Thank you so much. Yes. Now, I understand that VAT taxpayers are the ones who usually, you know, URA has a refunds division that takes care of people that have scenarios where they're the ones who have some money with URA, so they qualify to come and collect.
Yes.
There's VAT, there's also an element within the withholding, but it's mainly VAT, the people that enjoy these benefits. Yes. What advice would you give for someone who is interested in actually being in a position where they can come and they claim their VAT? To do it smoothly, what are some of the things that they need to make sure of?
Come again, I think I don't understand the question.
For someone to be in a very good position,
yes,
to make a VAT refund claim and they get it, you know, quite smoothly.
Yes.
What are these two things that they must have ticked out? You've already talked about the first one,
Yes.
to do with return filing.
Yes, they should file their returns. They should have their records properly. Keep their records proper, such that when you put in your refund claim and you submit your records that are backing up the return, the refund process is going to be so smooth, and you are going to get back your VAT claim in the shortest time possible.
Of course, they also have this extra incentive of EFRIS.
Yes.
Can you talk about that obligation to register for EFRIS?
Yeah, of course, right now, every taxpayer in business is required to be on EFRIS, so that everything is real time. As you sell, URA sees what you've sold. As you purchase, URA will be notified, and even all your suppliers and the clients are notified. So if you are on EFRIS, then life is going to be so comfortable for you, because URA is in the know of everything that you're doing. Your refund claim is going to be processed smoothly. So I encourage taxpayers to ensure they register that all their transactions are through EFRIS, because then URA is not going to ask you again to carry the physical records to bring. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is this part of the show where the phone lines are completely open for you. Not phone lines, of course, the Zoom chat window and the Q&A section, for you to ask any question related to VAT fraud or any question related to VAT. The dynamic pair here will be able to take those questions on. But as we get into that session of taking on those questions, kindly allow me to first salute a few of the people that I see within the lounge. Ejita, that should be Alan. I see you. Thank you for tuning in. Erukundo, thank you for tuning in. We have a Bossa Roscoe representing the people whose names start with B. We have Catherine Atim Gwokcho. That's quite a name. She's tuned in. Of course, we do have Deogracious Ninsima. Is one of the most prominent auditors in this country. He's tuned in. Edith Kembabazi representing people with E. Gasio, Gi Asio, they're also tuned in. Hamid Aime tuned in. Jaffa for the J's. Kajumba Winifred for the K's. I Kivumbi for L. Kivumbi for those with L. And so many other people who are tuned in. Thank you so much for making the time to tune in. And it is at this point where you do have an opportunity to field any question with the team, and they'll take this question on quite adept and in real time. Of course, we do have a question here from Twitter, and someone is asking from Twitter that is it a must for every registered VAT taxpayer to get on EFRIS?
Yes. The answer is yes. Just like we said, we want things to move smoothly. So every taxpayer, if you are in EFRIS and your supplier is on EFRIS, your clients are on EFRIS, then your tax matters are going to be so smooth.
In a situation where someone is reluctant to get on EFRIS and yet they are a VAT registered taxpayer, what happens in that case?
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. As a taxpayer, you must look at the benefit of EFRIS in terms of how does it help my business. For instance, one is it helps you to accurately track both your sales and the purchases. And second is, as a business, you know you have what we call delegated responsibility. The people under you, especially if you're a director of a company, you will not be participating in the day-to-day operations of the company, but you have an oversight role. When the information is the EFRIS, you can access it real time. Unlike where if you are sat in an office environment. And secondly is look at in terms of nature of the bulk of the records you can keep. If your information is not in EFRIS, the papers that you are going to minimize when your information is IFRS. So my appeal to the taxpayers, you need to embrace IFRS. Of course, sometimes if you become non-compliant, you choose to become non-compliant, which is not the most case with most of the taxpayers, then that's when the investigations will come and knock at your door that you are supposed to comply and the issue IFRS, why are you not complying? That's when you are inviting the investigations department to come and tell you you are supposed to be on IFRS. So my appeal to the taxpayers is that we need to embrace it, look at it in terms of how is it going to help my business grow, and so that you reduce the unnecessary assessments or unfair assessments from URA as a result of not having information in IFRS.
Thank you so much for that. Someone is asking a question that is not exactly related to the topic, but maybe this is something that can be addressed because it's a question and it has come in. Dr. Sentamu Ibrahim is asking, how can one get a company TIN? He's probably asking for the requirements that are necessary to get a company TIN. We shall take that question.
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. The requirements for getting TIN are easy. One is you must have certificate of incorporation of the company that you bring to URA. We work closely with the Uganda Registration Service Bureau to verify whether those registration details are yours. Secondly is you must have a fixed abode of business, because at one time URA will come and will want to see where is your business located. You need to also give us the details of what are you going to do in terms of, we want to know which nature of business are you going to do for us to determine exactly which tax area are you supposed to apply for. So all that information is necessary, and we give you opportunity to apply for this information online to avoid unnecessary hurdle of coming to your offices. I imagine somebody is in Oraba. He has to travel all the way from Oraba to come to Koboko to apply for TIN. So we have simplified the process of you applying online and submitting information online, and the information is verified. Of course, it's also important that you can apply for a TIN. Reason being, most of the taxpayers, all the businesses, entities, they'll want to deal with someone who is registered. Especially if you are going to render a service or supply goods to government agents. Definitely the government will want to trade with someone who is tax compliant. And my appeal is just log into the URA website, you get the forms for the TIN application, and the documents that are required are not so many. Where you feel you need clarifications, the call centers lines are there to guide you on step-by-step process how you can be able to apply for this TIN.
Thank you so much for that good response. Now, we also do have a couple of questions that have come through via Zoom. We shall take these questions on layer by layer. The first question is coming from a gentleman called Nuaha Emmanuel. And he's saying, good morning. This is Emmanuel Nuaha, Vice President, Moobs Tax Society. He's tuned in. I would like more information and knowledge on VAT output, inclusive and exclusive. The other thing is it possible for someone to have business with the government, yet their threshold does not reach 150 million UGX? Quite interesting questions. It's a two-in-one. In one scenario, he's asking that he would like to know more, he would like more information, a little bit more clarity on the issue of VAT output, inclusive and exclusive. Then he would also like to get some clarity on the issue of whether it is possible for someone to have business with government, maybe as a supplier, yet their threshold does not reach 150 million UGX. I think it's a question that speaks to the requirement to be VAT registered and FS registered in order to supply. That's a question from Mr. Nwaha. We also do have a question from Edith Kembabazi, and she's saying, how are we closing in on the root sales for those who don't issue e-invoices? And also the major problem of Chikubo, where many people do not issue e-invoices. Most clients are stuck when they buy, but they are refused access to e-invoices. What is the plan? That is a question from Edith Kembabazi. It's a question that speaks to enforcement, I think, especially on the matter of root sales and also those suppliers in downtown Chikobo who are still not issuing e-receipts or e-invoices when they trade with people, making life a bit uncomfortable for VAT registered taxpayers who want to do good VAT accounting. The other one is a question from Mr. or Miss Anonymous, who is saying, comment about the requirement for people offering professional services to register for VAT, especially if they do not make the 150 million threshold. Yeah, those are, I think, 4 questions. We can take those on for now, then we shall keep fielding other questions. The question lines are open, so this is the part of the show where everything becomes live, the Live Tax Lounge.
I think I can respond to Noah.
Please.
Who is asking about output, inclusive and exclusive. And know what the law prescribes a tax invoice. A tax invoice is supposed to have various features. It is supposed to have a TIN. It's supposed to reflect the amounts. It's supposed to reflect the amount exclusive and then the total amount. So on the invoice, you realize that the seller will reflect the price of the commodity. For example, if the commodities are 100,000, or let's say simplify 100 shillings, they will indicate that this is the price of the item is 100 shillings. Then after that, they will compute 18% of the 100 shillings, which is 18 shillings. Then when they add, it will be 118. So the 100 is exclusive, it is VAT exclusive, and then the 118 is VAT inclusive. Sometimes people issue invoices or receipts that when they have included VAT already, they don't indicate on top that this is without VAT, this is VAT, and then including VAT. So, but you will find when they have indicated that this is VAT inclusive. But the correct tax invoice is supposed to indicate the amount exclusive, indicate the VAT computed at the rate of 18% or 0%, then the total amount, which is VAT inclusive. I hope I'm clear.
Thank you so much, Enid, for making that clarity to Mr. Noaha on the issue of output and input VAT, inclusive and exclusive. I thought that was quite clear. His was a 2-in-1 though. He had another element where he was talking about, yes.
Yes. He says if your sales are below the threshold,
yes.
And he wants to, can he be allowed to supply to government? Yes, I think you can be allowed to supply to government. And if you are below the threshold and you had not been registered for VAT before, when you get that contract with government, you can bring that contract to URA and indicate that I've obtained the contract, I want to register for VAT. You are going to be registered for VAT, and you go ahead and you trade with government. So being under the threshold does not stop you from getting government jobs. You come, declare your intention, or if you have already gotten a contract, you bring the contract, you indicate I'm going to supply government, and you're going to be registered for VAT, and you will go ahead and supply government.
No serious businessman should be limited by...
No, nobody should be limited.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, Geoffrey Tabo.
Thank you, Solomon. I'm going to comment on a question from Ken Babazi about issue of root sales, that people in root sales, they don't normally issue invoices. Of course, as a taxpayer who is purchasing goods from somebody who is supplying through root sales, it is important that you insist to ask for invoices. One is it will help you to claim VAT refund from URA. And secondly is there are scenarios whereby it also helps you to know exactly whom am I dealing with. Imagine you're in Kapchorwa, someone has brought goods to your business premise in Kapchorwa, but he's saying I have a headquarters in Kampala. In case the person has brought for you goods which are defective, how do you follow it up? Mean that you must be able to know where the person's head office is. So mean that it's important that you insist on asking for invoice from them, particularly if it's invoice for you to know exactly where the head office is, in case that the goods that you must have purchased are defective and they want to bring them back. There was also another question of the traders in Chikubo. It's not that all the traders in Chikubo don't want to issue tax invoices. We have a taxpayer office in downtown that has been constantly engaging the Chikubo traders and sensitizing them on the benefits of issuing a tax invoice or if it's an invoice. And of course, there are others who will be non-compliant. Not everybody will want to comply. Of course, the law gives you also powers to report the people whom you know that are non-compliant. You report them to URA that I've seen so and so not issuing invoices. And you become like a whistleblower to URA to report that information, and at the end of the day, you will end up getting a reward for that information. So my appeal to you is that if there are people that you know that are not issuing invoices, you have rights to report to URA, and we will treat you as a whistleblower, and you will be able to entitle to a reward for bringing that information to URA. There was a question from an anonymous person regarding what is it for a requirement for professional service provider to register for VAT. There are some professional services that are exempted from VAT. There are others that are not exempted from VAT. It depends on the nature of the business you are dealing in. And my appeal is that all professional services are supposed to be registered. And you must look at the registration in terms of not only VAT alone, look at also the other taxes which are applicable to you, like pay as you earn, like income tax. Unless your income is exempted from taxes, all the taxes, that's when you say, maybe I shouldn't register. But if you know that you are rendering professional services and your income is not exempted from taxes, you are supposed to register. There's no threshold for income tax. Even we have people under presumptive taxpayers regime, under income tax, and they still pay their tax liability. So for somebody rendering professional services, my appeal is that you need to register. But if he is not able to achieve the threshold for VAT, you can still notify URA that the threshold is looked at in terms of 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. You might find in the first 3 months, you have not reached the threshold. But after adding subsequent months, you realize that you have exceeded the threshold. So you should not only look at the 3 months threshold. I said, now I've counted my sales for a period of 3 months. It does not exceed the threshold. I shouldn't register. As long as in the subsequent periods of months, you have exceeded the threshold, you must register for VAT.
Thank you so much, Godfrey, for attending to those questions. There is another quite interesting one, because it speaks to the future in a way. And it's from a gentleman called Huntington Kanyike. And he's saying, what plans does URA have to tax the many services that are imported and consumed in Uganda as per the recent ruling in Ernst & Young versus URA? These services are now VATable. How is URA planning on tracking these transactions, as most happen online? E.g., he gives an example, payment for software licenses. That is the question. In the digital age, where people are consuming online.
Yes, thank you, Huntington. This is a challenge that URA is facing, all of us. The whole country is facing a challenge of going digital, but we have been taxing these imported services. Right now, URA does not have full capacity to track the e-services, the things like importing software because it is done remotely. But when we go out to audit, when we go out to investigate, we are able to identify these services. For example, we look at your books. When you are claiming a cost, when you are claiming that a cost in your income statement, and we find that you bought software, then at that point, it is going to be taxed. But efforts are being done to see that we find a way of taxing all e-services that are coming in, that are taxable and coming into the country, given that now the world has gone e-commerce. So it is something that URA is looking at seriously, but even previously, during our audits, we have been identifying these costs and taxing them. Maybe Godfrey, you want to add?
Yes, just like my colleague had said, we are in what we call global economy. And what you need to appreciate is that the law gives us rights to exchange information with other partner countries in the world. Even if you imported a service from China, URA has a capacity to get that information from that partner country. And secondly is sometimes you make payment for these items. And when you make a payment, you are aware that sometimes some of these payments have an element of withholding tax, which is a benefit to you, because you will, at the end point you will claim the withholding tax in your withholding tax returns. So for you to benefit from that withholding tax return, declare to us that I imported a service from this country, and this was my supplier, and I want to claim my withholding tax back, which is for the benefit of you, the taxpayer. So you must look at it in terms of how am I going to benefit as a taxpayer from these imported services that I'm consuming in this country.
Thank you so much. There's another quite interesting question here from Ewan Rafael Kabubi. It's coming through via YouTube, and he's saying, my question is in line with the company that provides services, e.g. construction of a road. How does it get its input tax or sales report? Because such a company just buys materials to construct the road. So how will it come up with its VAT without the sales part? Can I go again? Yes. My question is in line with a company that provides services, e.g. construction of a road. How does it get its input tax or sales report? Because such a company just buys materials to construct the road. So how will it come up with its VAT without the sales part?
Without the sales part.
Thank you. I don't know the name of the question, but of the person who has asked the question. But
Raphael.
Yes, Raphael. You are aware that road is a public good, and for you to construct a road, you must have a contract to the government. The contract you have signed with the government specifies exactly how much revenue they are going to pay you. And you will have to buy materials like maram, sand. You will also have to buy cement. You will have to buy a lot of items. Some of them attract VAT. Some of them don't attract VAT. And sometimes you realize that the government does not pay you monthly. So meaning that every month, all the purchases that you have incurred, on which VAT was charged on you, or VAT was not charged, you are supposed to declare all that purchases in every month. Declare it in your VAT returns, and even if in that particular month there is no revenue or sales to it, you declare it in the VAT return, so that you can be able to carry forward your input VAT you have incurred. It's until the point that you will receive that revenue, or that revenue it's recognized, that's when you can be able to declare the VAT returns. We'll say this is a VAT payable. So meaning that even if you are doing a road construction work and you continue to incur VAT on inputs, it does not mean that you should not declare in the VAT return just because you have not yet, invoices have not been issued or it has not been paid. So you are supposed to account VAT on invoice based, not cash accounting. So it still imposes obligation on you, because if you don't do that, when we run our system and realize that you did not file the returns for that month, you will be penalized. And you know, penalties are very stiff. So to avoid you being penalized by URA because you have failed to file the returns, on the assumption you believe that you have not received the revenue, you better declare all the purchases which were there. And even if there is no VAT payable to URA, you will still claim this input VAT in the subsequent month.
And maybe Raphael can also be informed that they can claim a refund. When they don't have sales, and the VAT they have incurred is above 5 million, you can claim back your VAT as long as it is above 5 million and it is authentic.
Thank you so much for that clarity. I think Raphael is a happy man. This question you're going to love a lot because it is a question that is directly concerning the actual investigations that are done by URA. And Guy Biarohanga is asking, how much did you recover from the missing trader operation? Because it concerned with VAT fraudsters. I think
He's who?
He's Guy Biarohanga. I don't know what
Mr.
Guy stands
Biarohanga.
for, but
Okay.
Biarohanga.
He wants to know how much we have.
Yes, because we've been having, URA has been having a dedicated operation against VAT fraud in the past couple of months. He's interested in the recovery, how much has been salvaged, how much was potentially out in the open, you know, how much was going away. That's what he's interested in.
Okay. Mr. Biarohanga, the operation is still ongoing, but the good news is that we have so far prosecuted people who are in prison. We have some people, culprits in prison, already prosecuted. We have those cases ongoing in court for 6 people, and they're also likely to be successfully prosecuted. 6 are ongoing in court. We also have another 10.
The ones who have already been prosecuted are how many?
2.
2.
Who are already there. Then those where cases are ongoing in court, and we see light at the end of the tunnel, we have 6. And we have those where we are still compiling information, which is actually ready. We shall submit to court, I think, next week, 10 people already lined up for court. Now, as for the liability, we shall produce the liability because, like I'm saying, that we are still analyzing. It's huge, it's a lot, there's a lot of fraud, but we are getting down to it. So the liabilities, I cannot be precise and tell you that we have so far so much billion, but we are going to get a good sum of money recovered out of this operation that is ongoing.
Thank you so much. It is safe to say that the process is processing very well.
Yes.
And we are very hopeful for
very hopeful.
Recouping whatever it is that was lost. And the advice in there, because when you get to hear about things like 2 people already in the institution of higher learning, like some people like to call it, it should be a humble advice to everyone to desist from this. But I'm not going to be the guy to do that. I'm going to give you an opportunity to give your parting shots, and it could be an appeal. It could you could tumira. You can do anything you want with the next 2 to 3 minutes, because this is the time where you get to make parting shots as we crown the end of this particular episode of the Live Tax Lounge. We shall start with, of course, natural selection. Ladies first.
Okay, my appeal or caution is that investigation is out on the alert. I want to caution our dear taxpayers that don't get tempted to use false information. Don't get tempted to buy invoices to reduce your liabilities from people who are out on the street selling. Don't get tempted to file fictitious invoices for purposes of getting a free refund. That is stealing from the government, and we shall readily get you. We may not have you today, but tomorrow we are going to have you. There are so many schemes that are out there intended to cheat government of tax, but get informed that we know them, we are working on them. Tomorrow we shall get you. We have already gotten people. You remember the motor vehicle fraud? People we imprisoned, they appealed up to the highest court, but still we got them. People falsify their information by reducing sales. Of course, there are two ways of falsifying information. You either want to reduce income or you want to increase cost. All of this, all the schemes that are in town, we are aware of them, and we shall crack them out. One by one, we shall get to everybody.
Thank you so much. Of course, Inid's takeaway is we might not have you today,
yes,
but we shall have you tomorrow. She said that with a lot of certainty. Didn't sound like a threat, it sounded like a promise. So please, if you're out there, be sure to avoid some of these circumstances that might land you in such a difficult position. Over to you, Mr. Godfrey Tabu, parting shots.
Thank you, Solomon, and thank you, our viewers and listeners. My appeal to all the taxpayers that this is our country. And as a citizens of this country, we have a noble duty to pay taxes to develop our country. Whatever tax evasion activities that you do today will affect us tomorrow, me and you inclusive. And you need to keep good records so that even if it's 5 years from now, that if URA comes to your business premises, you can be able to accurately tell how you did your business 4 or 5 years ago. Keep proper records. Never share your TINs with another person to do business transactions. Take custody of your password for your TIN. And be compliant for taxes. When you see investigators coming to your business premises, just know that you have fallen short of your compliance. And the issue of non-compliance costs are always high. So my appeal to you is that look at your taxes as a responsibility on you that will help to develop our country. And where you find you have challenges in dealing with your tax issues, all your offices are open. We have even a registered tax agents who can help you to address your tax issues. Don't first allow yourself to fall into a trap. And then thereafter you will seek for tax services from URA. Don't take that approach, because if you take that approach of falling first into a trap, the compliance costs will be enormous on you, and it can affect your business operations in the future period to come. And the other thing is, if you are aware that you know that there's somebody who is not comply with these tax obligations, we have a whistleblowers platform where you can report the information to URA, and the information that you are provided will be kept in confidentiality. And at the end of the day, when taxes are recovered from the person who was either investigated or audited, you will be entitled to a reward. And we shall keep your information confidential. So my appeal to you is that we should all help to develop our country so that we stop relying on foreign donations to finance our business operations and also to develop our roads in this country. Thank you, Solomon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tabu Godfrey. Mr. Tabu went for the heart, and he made an appeal of for all of us to be true countrymen by putting the country first, honoring our tax obligations. Of course, he also made some emphasis on the issue of the TIN protection. Protect your TIN at all times. Don't let your password be in the possession of someone else, because you can never know what the person is going to do. Yet whatever it is that they're going to do with your TIN will have direct ramifications that will be faced by you alone. Do the right thing to keep the tax investigator at bay. That's what he said. But he also made a special appeal to all of you out there who can snitch, to go ahead and snitch for cash. It's called productive snitching, when you're telling URA who is not doing the right thing, because then it comes with a reward. This particular episode of the Live Tax Lounge has been produced courtesy of a dynamic duo of Saleh Kamba and Irene Kabakama. And of course, I need to salute our technical crew, that is Bosco Maria, Paul Kawanguzi, and Trevor Sentongo, for making sure that we get the right picture and the right sound. And of course, from all of us at URA TV to you, adios.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
That's my little angel Rose. Together with millions of other children, my daughter Rose is assured of learning something new every day. Moses, my husband, just like many other commercial farmers, has his business supported so he can provide for us. When my other little one was on the way, even with my pregnancy complications, it was a quick, smooth ride to Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital. Also, my new baby was able to make it through his first days with the help of specialized equipment thanks to the reliable electricity which has also been extended throughout the country. All this and more has been made possible because of you.
Join us and together let's do more for our country. Get your free tin instantly at www.ura.go.ug.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.